What's up, fakers? If you're like me, you've played through Sonic's levels in Adventure 2 more times than you can count, trying to get the fastest time or the highest score. But it got me thinking, what if I try to get the lowest score possible? Would it be harder than getting the A-ranks? Either way, can we beat all of Sonic's levels in Sonic Adventure 2 scoring 0 points? Well, let's find out. Now you're probably thinking, Shadow, this is easy. I already scored 0 points. Ha 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 ha. Well, you'd be surprised what actually gives you points in this game. Before we begin, we should set up a few ground rules for the challenge. 1, I will have every power-up available to me, just to make the video as interesting as possible. I cannot use checkpoints to reduce my points to 0. So if I get points, I have to keep them. And 3, I am allowed to use save states and checkpoints, because I'm bad at the game and it's my video and you can do nothing about it. Let's get to work! City Escape wastes no time by immediately making us dodge a set of rings that you would normally collect automatically and all of the cars in the surrounding area. Things to look out for in the boarding section are the cars, the rings, and the trick ramps. So once you get past the initial 2 seconds of the level, the rest of the boarding section is pretty easy. Our first major obstacle that we come across is in fact these boxes right here. Because if you destroy them, you will actually gain points. So we need to find another way through these boxes if we want to be able to progress any further. But we actually are not stuck, because with a well-placed spin dash jump, we are actually able to clip through the left side of the boxes, allowing us to continue further through the level. So nothing really is that challenging from here on until the next checkpoint, so we're just going to skip right there. So the next challenge with this level is getting past the big loop and running down the wall section. Because most loops in this game are scripted, they send you down a very specific path. So if you were to just run into the speed rails, you would automatically collect the rings in front of you. However, with a well-timed spin dash jump, we are actually able to avoid the loop completely and skip past it, allowing us to continue the rest of the level. Unfortunately, when we reach the truck section of the level, it is actually impossible to avoid collecting the rings behind these doors. I've tried everything. I've tried spin dashing on different sides of it. I've tried trying to bounce out of the room, but none of these things work. So the level is looking pretty hopeless, but then something glorious appeared. Speedrunner Devu actually showed me that it is possible to clip out of this loop while having Sonic under skewed gravity by storing the faulty gravity of the loop in his spin dash before homing attacking out of bounds. And with this wonky gravity, you are actually able to clip through the rest of the level, including the truck section, which will land you at the end of the level right next to the goal ring, where you just have to wait until the time bonus expires at 9 minutes and 20 seconds. So just huge shout out to Devu for helping me out with this, because I could not get this trick. I tried it for hours and hours and hours, but I just could not get it to work. So special thanks to him for showing it is in fact possible to beat City Escape with 0 points. Well, after City Escape gave me a lot harder of a time than I expected, we get to move on to Metal Harbor, which is one of the easier levels in this challenge. So there's not really much to talk about for most of this level, so let's cut ahead to our first major obstacle. Once we reach this island, we run into a bit of a predicament because the game wants us to chain a homing attack across this long group of enemies, which will just simply yield us far too many points. Luckily for us, all we need is a well-timed spin dash jump to clear this gap, which then leads us directly to our next obstacle, which is this trail of rings that you're supposed to collect using the Lightspeed dash. However, we are actually able to just jump on top of these boxes right here, and then on top of this tower, and just spin dash jump over to the other side. Now, this long gap may look like it would cause a problem for us, but we are actually able to just jump off of the edge right here and take this rocket to the other side. Yeah, I've played this game for 15 years and I had no idea that was there. Our next obstacle are these gates. While you're supposed to spin dash under them, that will actually yield you points. But luckily we can avoid that by just spin dash jumping around them and going through the back. Finally, we have the end of the level, which is probably the trickiest sequence, which starts with this spin dash jump over this group of enemies. While not very difficult in terms of distance, it is pretty easy to hit those enemies, so if you do this for yourself, you want to be careful of those. Now, you might be thinking if you played this game, this rocket gives you points when you touch it, so how are we going to avoid this? Well, funnily enough, if you just hit it late enough, you actually just won't score any points. Now, all we have left to do is the boarding section, which, while obviously possible to do without scoring any points, it is still stressful. That was close. Well, anyway, now all we have to do is wait for 9 minutes and 20 seconds, and then we can complete this level and have successfully completed Metal Harbor with 0 points. Man, this challenge is going really well so far. You probably thought that meant Green Forest was going to be hard, didn't you? Ah, I gotcha. It's still really easy. This level is actually so easy that the only thing of note is this spring right here, where you actually have to hold forward to dodge a little circle of rings right here. Yep, in almost the entire level, that's all we've had to deal with. Our one other obstacle comes at the end of the level with the falling platforms. So normally you'd get to the end and ride a spring up, but instead we are going to be performing a super bounce. Because if we were to use either of the springs at the end of the level, they would provide 1,000 bonus points. And you know we can't have that. Unfortunately, as some of you may have already guessed, due to the nature of this level having an 8-minute time limit, we are forced to complete the level with a time bonus. So, yes, within the first 3 levels of this game, the only points that we have scored so far are a mandatory time bonus. Not even anything we actually did in the level. Pyramid Cave. Now this is an interesting level because there's not one difficult trick in this level, but there's a lot of small, kind of annoying tricks. So it's kind of death by 1,000 paper cuts. Whether that's avoiding these rings at the start to avoid bonus points, there being random rings in the middle, you going on ramps or through loops that will just send you straight into rings without you knowing. So, let's see what we have to do to complete Pyramid Cave. Our first obstacle comes in the form of these trick bars right here. Generally in this game, performing any kind of trick or jump will net you points. So instead, I'm going to come down here and super bounce up to the platform to avoid any unnecessary points. Almost immediately after, we are shown our first ramp of the level that will send us straight into a set of rings if we are not careful. These are tricky to avoid because the ramp really wants to force you to the middle, but if you hold back enough, the game will eventually let you slow down and avoid the rings altogether. Next, we have this spin dash jump, which really makes us thread the needle between those enemies and those rings. And you have to do a spin dash jump or else the enemies will likely be able to shoot you before you're able to get past them. I personally find this area of going over to get that key a little bit too difficult, but luckily there is a little trick we can do to jump through this gate so we don't have to worry about accidentally killing an enemy or having one of the gamma robots shoot us while we're trying to grab the key. This level was really giving us no breaks because we'll come across this hallway with 3 timed doors that, guess what? If you run through all of them, you will get 300 points. However, like most things in this challenge, a super bounce allows us to avoid this quite easily. Now we have our second loop-de-loop that basically forces us to pick up rings. Luckily for us, a simple spin dash jump off this railing is more than enough to clear the gap. Now, everything up to this point has been just a minor inconvenience, but this gate right here is our first real hurdle, because going under it like you're normally supposed to will actually net you points. As far as I can tell, you cannot super bounce over it, there's an invisible wall, you can't go off to the right, and we cannot clip under it. So, we're gonna have to find a different way. After some experimenting, I figured out you can super bounce up onto this beam, And then if you very carefully do a spin dash jump around the invisible walls that prevent you from going around normally, you're actually able to go around and land on this platform. So from here we're basically able to just drop down, avoid these rings, and continue with the rest of the level normally, because there's nothing else in our way to prevent us from completing the challenge. So from here on out, like all the other levels, all that's left for us is just to wait for 9 minutes and 20 seconds, and we will have Pyramid Cave beaten with 0 points.
Barely made it.
Now, the moment you have all been waiting for. Crazy Gadget. Let me be the first to tell you that this stage is exactly as hard as you would think it is. It is ridiculous. I hated doing it. I never want to do it again, but it is one of the coolest things that I've ever seen in this game. So we basically start this level with a downer, because right here this glass cage is required to break to go to the next section of the level, which grants us 20 points. This is unavoidable. There's no way to clip through that wall, so we are forced to score for the first time in this entire challenge. Our next obstacle comes in the form of this artificial chaos right here. So I just went ahead and destroyed him, because as far as I am aware, it is the only way to open this door. But we have enough of the level open to us that we'll pencil it in as maybe for now. However, when we approach this glass wall that we would normally need to break like the first one, instead of gaining these 20 points and going up to 240, there actually is a way to skip this door, believe it or not. But it will require something pretty tricky. So I'm going to walk you guys through this trick in its entirety. So first of all, we need to come down here and kill this artificial chaos, and then immediately super bounce up to this gravity changer. So I want to give you guys a little bit of a warning that my in-game points and rings may fluctuate with the time and be inaccurate. This is because this was done with save states and over multiple playthroughs, because this trick was just too hard for me to do in one try. Next, we'll slowly creep up the tunnel until we can see the artificial chaos's hands coming in front of us, because if we don't watch for his attack, he will kill us on the way. So we'll watch for those hands right there, and then we'll do a quick spin dash jump to the other side and end back up in the top of the roof that we started in. Now that we're back in this room, we're going to engage the left hand gravity switch, and we're going to be performing one of the most difficult tricks in this entire level. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to jump onto this tiny little lip right here, and then perform a spin dash jump perfectly with a homing attack cancel to just barely get enough room to clip down into this door with skewed gravity. Now in this room, we need to carefully position ourselves onto this lip and perform a spin dash jump, and we can enter this door that is only open because of the artificial chaos we killed earlier. So now we're going to be flying through these rooms and hallways with the wrong gravity, and we need to avoid all of the enemies and death planes, so we'll eventually get to the end where we reach this door. Finally, we'll end this little adventure with a bounce bracelet out of bounds, which then we will time a homing attack and properly aim ourselves to hit the goal ring. So yes, Crazy Gadget is possible to complete with 220 points. Only a couple things we needed to do, like breaking that glass cage and then killing the enemy. Wait, what's that? You're telling me there's an easier way? You're telling me there's a way I can do it with only 20 points? Oh, you gotta be kidding me! So, basically, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, the actual good players of this game know a skip from that gravity room before, where they're actually able to just go directly to the end of the level without doing all of that nonsense that I had to do because I'm not good at the game. So actually, Crazy Gadget is able to be beaten in 20 points, meaning the only thing we had to do was destroy the one glass capsule. Like City Escape, Final Rush wastes no time. So, to get past the very beginning of this level, we have to do a directionless jump off of the rail to avoid this trail of rings. We then spin dash jump over here to clear the final set. Now, I have no idea if this skip is necessary, but I just love doing it, where we jump off here and we avoid all of these rails and rings and just fall down straight onto the platform here. Next, we have another tricky jump right here where we need to make sure that we jump but wait long enough to homing attack to avoid the spring, but also clear the set of rings. Now, once we're in this room, we run into a bit of a problem because destroying these boxes right here yield us points. Now, there's no way to clip out of this room with a super bounce from what I can tell, but luckily, professional speedrunner the Whippersnapper came in and gave me the greatest idea I've ever heard.
Magically fling yourself around the building.
The worst part is, there's so many tricks that I know that probably could work. Wait.
Okay, that seems
promising. Wait a second. Wait. I might have discovered something. I don't know if that's a thing. Through a masterstroke of game knowledge, the Whippersnapper led me to this small platform right here, which you can land on, and then spin dash jump around to land inside this tunnel, securing 0 points in the process, allowing us to actually continue with the level. Unbelievably. So through this section, I'm going to do a series of jumps off of these pipes to gain extra height at the end instead of just riding them normally. Because in this section of the level, there is a lot of rings and a lot of boxes and a lot of enemies in the way. So it's simply easier to just avoid them with spin dash jumps and just gaining height from these to access additional pathways to clear some of the unnecessary items. One of the hardest parts about this challenge on Final Rush is that a lot of these rails that we almost need to grind on have rings on them. So I'm going to show you a little section where we utilize some of the other areas and mechanics, like this one where we use the rocket to fly over here to avoid as many of the rails as possible. And then when we go off this rail, we're going to jump off to avoid having to do any trick jumps or anything of the sort. We jump off this platform to avoid the rails at all, and then we're going to land up here to skip a whole section of the level. I'm going to be completely honest, a lot of this probably isn't necessary, but this is my general philosophy when going through this level, just trying to avoid as many of the rails as possible. At the end of the level, we come into another room that would require us to destroy boxes, but instead we are going to super bounce up here over the enemies onto this tunnel, and we are going to wait for 9 minutes and 20 seconds to alleviate our time bonus before we do the next part of the trick. This wall is a little more forgiving, so we're able to just super bounce and redirect ourselves around it, and we'll get transported into this tunnel at the end of the level. So we just need to ride down and hit the goal ring, and we will have completed Final Rush with 0 points, which honestly shocks me. I did not expect that to be possible.
Barely made it.
To be honest with you guys, I am shocked at how well this went. I did not expect so many of the levels to be possible and for us to only have 2 instances of necessary points. So, let's bring it all together and see how we did all in all in this challenge. So, City Escape, we were able to complete with 0 points. Meadow Harbor, we were able to complete with 0 points. Green Forest, we were able to complete with 1,620, but that's only through the technicality of the time bonus because of the level's 8-minute time limit. We didn't actually have to score any points throughout the level. We were able to complete Pyramid Cave with 0 points. We were able to complete Crazy Gadget with 20 points. Unlike Green Forest, this level actually required us to do something in the scope of the gameplay to score points by destroying the 1 glass tube. And finally, we are able to complete Final Rush with 0 points, meaning our total points for all of Sonic's levels in Sonic Adventure 2 is 1,640. So, I just want to thank you all for watching this video because it was a ton of fun to make, but it was also a ton of work. So, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and let me know if you want me to do this with the other characters. Or maybe you have some other fun challenge idea that you can make me do. Or should I say, make me suffer through. Well, Anyways, thanks for watching, and sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog.